I'm gonna try real hard. So welcome to the August forecast. If everybody is capable of muting themselves so we don't have any background noise, that would be great. And let's just launch, because that's how I do. We just launch. So today is August 2nd. Yesterday on August 1st, Mars blew through the North Node Uranus conjunction in Taurus. And why this is an energetic blowing through is due to the fact that both Uranus is a slow mover, like 84 years to make it around the sun. This is a weighty, measured act of rebellion and genius and release of tension. The nodes, interestingly enough, do this beautiful wobble. They dance back and forth. So this Uranus North Node conjunction, we've been in the energy of it. It went exact on the 30th. They will stay hooked up and doing their thing through the weekend, and then they will move back into an orb. But Mars is adding this ignition to it, coming in as this warrior. And how are we going to take action towards radically changing our boots on the ground life? Because that's Taurus. What do we need to change about how we interact with our bodies, how we interact with our physical goods? If you want to look at that in your chart, it's happening at 18 degrees of Taurus. So anything you've got at 18 degrees is being activated by this. And anything that is happening, your fixed signs, Taurus, Scorpio, Aquarius, and Leo are really going to be pinged. Today, the 2nd, Venus is going to create a trine with the North Node, providing us with the ability to go into a little bit more releasing. Because as we were chatting before we started, and to really manifest, to really bring something into being, we so often have to let something go. And this Venus trine the North Node is this emotional release valve, almost saying, hey, it's okay to feel the feels, to grieve, to maybe be scared, to be hesitant, reluctant, guilt, shame. Let all of that come up so that it can be flushed away. It can be washed away. On the 4th, Mercury is going to slide into his second home in Virgo, which puts him in this beautiful position of curating information. Virgo is a bit of a collector energy. They like to be organized and have things in its places. And Mercury in Virgo to me very much feels like a curator of information. Everything is neatly cataloged and alphabetized. And that information is either going to help clear up something that we're looking at from the past, or it's going to give us information for something that's coming. So as the information comes in, just neatly allow it to be cataloged in your life. Allow that Mercury energy, that messenger energy, to really curate that information. On the 7th of August, I was going to say April, but we're in August all month. Mars in Taurus is going to square off with Saturn in Aquarius. This happens at 22 degrees. Saturn is retrograde right now. So any places that you witnessed, experienced, saw your own constriction, your own Saturn can be a cold, push away energy. Saturn also, beautifully enough, will hold any structure we build. So if you have built a structure in your life that is constricting you, this is an opportunity as Mars and Saturn square off. Saturn is once again being like, hey, are you going to do anything about this? Or are you going to continue in the same thread you've been moving in? Mars wants to blow it up. Square is very much an energy that Mars feels comfortable in, because it is an energy that can feel conflictual. It can feel aggressive. It can feel like, let's do something here. And the beauty of a square is that if you use those two energies working together, Mars is ignition, Mars is passion, Mars is drive, with Saturn's ability to make it real, to bring it in and land it and ground it, you can use that energy to stand up and overcome an obstacle. Venus in Cancer is also going to trine Neptune in Pisces that day. So this could be a release of the way that we set up our own delusions. Where are we lying to ourselves? How do we get in our own way? Because Neptune in his shadow, and he's retrograde right now, so he is passing over territory yet again that he's already been over, showing us where are we not being honest with ourselves? Where are we not being true? And Venus in Cancer is like, feel those things. Feel the way that you are not meeting yourself fully. Feel the way you are denying yourself by turning away from the things that are maybe going to serve you most. 8-8 is Lionsgate. And now I am a big when it comes to New Age stuff. I want to throw it all out the window because I know too many people who have been really deeply damaged by New Age stuff. And Lionsgate is New Age from a standpoint of they latched onto 8-8 because 8 is an infinity symbol and it is abundant. It's all these great things. 8's beautiful. And the Lionsgate is a 3-week period that starts on July 26th and moves through August 12th. That is the time of year where the Nile floods and the waters return to Egypt and the bounty comes. And it is about recognizing what we have and holding that in gratitude. And how do we use what's coming in? Whether maybe we need to store it, maybe we need to collect that water and store it for the dry period. So it's a beautiful time of manifesting. If you can realize that manifesting often comes with a level of letting go. Hannah made a beautiful comment today about when you're going to manifest, when you're going to up level, things that no longer vibrate with you will fall away, always. There's no holding on to those things. If you're going to upgrade, it's going to shake right out of your little clingy fingers. So that's considered the peak of Lionsgate. I'm particularly looking at it because Pluto in Capricorn, who is retrograde, is going to oppose Venus in Cancer. Now, Pluto in Capricorn is top-down authority. We've been watching and it's drilling down and bringing up the mess because that's what Pluto does. It dives deep and it brings up all the stuff we need to see because we cannot heal the wound if we don't look at the wound. You don't know what needs to be done. You don't know what bandage needs to be applied. Is there an artery in there that maybe needs to be cauterized? You know, we have to look at the mess to clean it up. And we all have our messes. We really do. So allow this Pluto and Venus opposition to bring up the mess. And as I will often say for my women's circle members, an opposition can feel like two things. It is either this pushing in of the archetypes. It's Venus and Cancer feeling all of her feels, pushing in against Pluto and Capricorn, who can in his mess be like, no. So how are you going to let that forge you? It can also, when you're working with those energies in the highest, it can create space. Both Pluto and Venus carry the threads of money and power and control. So what is your relationship with money and power and control? Sex is a big one for both of them also. So feeling into that particular aspect happens at 26 degrees of the cardinal signs, Capricorn and Cancer. So you can also look in your Aries and Libra to see if there's anything going on there. On the 10th, the sun in Leo is going to square the nodes in Uranus. So I said that Uranus and the North Node were going to be in conjunction for a while. They're still in conjunction on August 10th, people, because that happens at 18 degrees of Leo, Taurus, and Scorpio. A T-square, which is what this is. The sun's down here. The nodes are here. it's like a seesaw for us old people who remember those. I have to pay attention to my demographic. And it's a choice point. I spoke about a square and how a square is conflict, but when you have a T square, you're given a choice. The sun brings an illumination and a call for us to follow our deepest, most aligned place. Where does our actual true spiritual power sit? And that's the sun piece. And with a north node and a south node, we're given a choice. Do we stay in what's comfortable, easy, and what we know, south node, or do we move toward the thing that is scary and unknown, that's new and fresh, and is likely to cause us some discomfort? It's destiny and fate. Are you going to stick with fate? Because fate is what is oftentimes the easiest piece, because it's the known piece. Or are you going to move towards destiny? Are you going to leap and jump and go? And you know what? I promise your wings, they will burst out. They will. That's again at 18 degrees of the fixed signs. On the 11th, the full moon peaks at 8:35 p.m. Central Time. So adjust your time zones. And the full moon is in Aquarius. So the moon's in Aquarius. The sun is in Leo. They are opposite of each other. And that's what creates a full moon. So we are going to have a beautiful full moon in Leo, in Aquarius. There's all of this stuff going on with the sun and the nodes and Saturn and Mars and Pluto are going to have a little get together also. All of these energies are not just hit on that day. There's always space around. So when I talk about this is happening on this day, that's the day it goes exact. And I'm not quite sure what's happening there, Hannah. We're just gonna keep going.
You were in the waiting room and I'm like, okay, if 2 is better. I mean, let's go.
Let's see what happens.
Let's see. I'm going to put you back in the waiting room.
Okay. That's great. I don't know how I ended up there twice.
So cool. Anyway, continue.
There's orb space around all of these aspects. There's the build up in the days before, there's the day it goes exact, or the days in some big aspects, and then there's the fall away. So that full moon in Aquarius, if you're planning a full moon party, the 11th, 8:35 p.m. Central Time, and adjust your time zones because I know we're all on different time zones. On the 12th, Venus moves into Leo. She gets out a pretty sexy outfit, and she is going to fluff her hair and head out into the world. She has been in the internal energy of Cancer, feeling all the feels, and now she's ready to roar. She is ready to step into her queendom, which is part of what Lionsgate's about. And if you want to hear me rattle on about Lionsgate, join me in the Archetypal Astrology group, because I can talk. We're going to own that. On the 13th, Mars in Taurus is going to trine retrograde Pluto in Capricorn. So here's the support. One of my favorite things about Mars and Pluto is that Mars is a more accessible vibration than Pluto is. So once you get really familiar with Mars is a personal planet, you can start to access Pluto, because Pluto is bigger and deeper. And they're both warriors. They're both lovers. They both have kind of messy, aggressive sides. And if Mars, I love that this is a trine because they're going to be working together. But when Mars and Pluto go head to head, Mars may win the battle, but Pluto will always win the war. Always. So moving from that place of desire and letting things go, the same day the sun is going to oppose Saturn. So the sun is going to be shining a light on those restrictions, the boxes we put ourselves in, and the ways that we deny ourselves our fullness. On the 15th, Mercury in Virgo is going to trine the North Node. So for those of you that have been following, last week, Mercury squared the nodes. There was a message about the choices we make. And now Mercury is going to come in and trine the North Node, which puts him sextile to the South Node. So this is going to be messages about what we need to do to move toward that destiny and creative ways to release. Because if you're an aspect to one of the nodes, you're an aspect to the other node. So it's just about knowing which energy you want to move with. There's going to be messages about the South Node, and it's going to be about how do you creatively let go of the things you've been clinging to. And the North Node, hey, I want to support you in getting there because I'm on your team. So the beauty of the cosmos is they're pretty much always on our team. It's just how we energize and how we work with it. And rather than bracing and blocking or trying to hide, as ridiculous as that is, allowing the energy to come and to move with it, to play with it. I had a horse analogy yesterday for those of you that are following that, you have to time it and you've got to grab the horse as it runs by, and you may have to run a little bit, or you can just swing up on it and find your rhythm with it. Find your rhythm. It's like surfing. You find a rhythm and you may get swamped, and that's okay. Everybody gets swamped, but you get back up and you paddle, 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 and you feel what the energy is doing, how it's moving. The 16th, Mercury in Virgo is going to trine Uranus, because at this point, as of the 15th, the node will have danced to 17 degrees and Uranus is still at 18 degrees. So that's why these aspects are a day apart, but really the energy is still mixed. Uranus is oftentimes associated with a lightning bolt because it is a release of tensions. It is this build up of the thing we've been repressing, the thing we've been ignoring, the thing we've been pushing away, and then it kind of explodes. And we have an option as that lightning bolt strikes. Do I change it? Do I use this lightning bolt to create a pathway so I don't have to repress this thing, so I don't have to push it aside anymore? Uranus is also associated with our genius, our creativity, and our rebellion against the status quo, because I'm all about rebellion right now. The 18th, Venus in Leo is going to trine our friend Jupiter. So there's this fire trine between the two benefics. Venus is one benefic and Jupiter is another benefic. And Jupiter is retrograde right now. The thing about a retrograde planet is it's right now moving really, really, really slowly. So it's really going to be digging down and really expanding a certain area of our lives, asking us to grow into more. And this fire trine is transformation. Fire is a transformative energy. The 20th, Mars moves into Gemini. Mercury in Virgo is going to oppose Neptune. So Mars into Gemini, he's going to pick up speed. Mars tends to feel a little bogged down. He gets a little oxen in a yoke, and I want everybody else to be yoked with me when Mars is in Taurus. And that is a struggle for Mars to be in that. Got to slow down, pay attention to my body. And Mars in Gemini can be hot words. It can be spicy. It can be fast reactions. It can, and that's the thing. It's a reaction. It's not a response. Responses take time and thought. And when we're coming from a place of defense, we are reacting. That is beautiful Mars and Gemini right there. Mercury in Virgo is going to be in this push-pull with Neptune in Pisces. The thing that comes up for me is I am really curious to watch the news that day. And I'm curious to watch the news that day because Mercury in Virgo is well curated information. It's facts and what is real. And this opposition to Neptune in his shadow, one of the big things about Neptune is that Neptune is fake news. So having these two in this push-pull energy of here are all of the well-curated facts, because Virgo is also a perfectionist. Virgo is that perfectionist energy. I'm going to have all my facts right. I'm going to have all the information, and then I'm going to do the thing because it's got to be perfect because I'm in control of everything. And this Neptune in Pisces, he's at home. He's in his watery realm and he is revisiting things. So there's going to be this potential for things to be dredged up that we already know, and we have different actual real information on. So for me, I'm curious to watch the news that day. The 22nd, Mercury in Virgo is going to trine Pluto in Capricorn. So this is again, what are the depths? How are things being dredged up? Pluto in Capricorn, I've spoken about this regarding the Pluto generations, is kind of this sign of top-down authority. And how does it get broken down? Pluto is the Lord of Death. He wants to break it down. But to break it down, he's going to bring all this stuff up first. And we continue being given options as to whether or not we're going to, buildings, how they implode buildings, and then they're nice and they neat and they just fall down in on themselves. And how that is a contained, controlled destruction versus an explosion where pieces fly everywhere and there can be a lot of damage and people get hurt and it's messy. It's not that the implosion isn't messy. It's that the implosion is measured and done with consciousness. The area is cleared. Things are made safe for an implosion to happen. And that's really what Pluto in Capricorn is really steering us towards, is can we move with consciousness to implode things, to break things down as they've been dredged up, so that once Pluto gets into our friend Aquarius, we can really access deep, deep innovation. But that's not like for another couple of years. So just stick with us. We'll get there. Oh, and the sun moves into Virgo on the 22nd. Happy birthday to all of our Virgo babies. The 24th, Venus is going to square the nodes. This is 16 degrees. She's in Leo. The nodes are in Taurus and Scorpio. So the 24th, our friend Venus is going to bring her feels. This feels like a day where we're going to be asked to make a choice about the alignment of heart and money, power and money, to really get very, very clear. Power, heart, money, heart, because those can be such shadow elements, and they can hold us in that South Node place. Mars in Gemini is going to square the sun in Virgo on the 25th. So again, that square it can highlight aggression. This is the willpower moving against this warrior energy. And the warrior energy in its height recognizes that the only person we're ever fighting is ourselves. So that spiritual warrior, how do I be better here? Mars is also about desire. He was originally an agrarian god. He is the god that called to the seeds to break free and to germinate and grow. So he is very, very much about the desire for growth. So, and we need the sun to grow. So I kind of love this. If you're being given an opportunity to grow and to stretch into something new around the 25th, this is a Mars Sun square. And, that could, count for, as I said, the days around that. Venus in Leo is then going to square Uranus and Taurus. So these feels, and keeping in mind that you know, when Uranus was first discovered, it was seen as this big energy of destruction and the end of all things because, well, it was way far out there. We didn't think anything else was out there. So it had to be destruction and the end of all things. And can we access the genius of our heart? Feels like the question to be able to use that square to stand up and overcome. That's the 26th, the 28th. Venus in Leo opposes retrograde Saturn in Aquarius, and Black Moon Lilith is going to trine the South Node in Scorpio. So Venus in Leo is this sovereign heart energy opposing Saturn in Aquarius. And for those of you that have been listening, I've been really talking about this Tower of Babel concept, and that diversity and our differences were brought in by divinity to teach us to love those differences and accept that diversity and to welcome all of the parts and pieces rather than to try to just, because prior to Yahweh intervening, everybody spoke the same language, everybody looked the same, everybody did the same, and everybody, it was very much that hive mind. It was the shadow of Aquarius. And Yahweh looked and is like, hey, it's time to upgrade you people. You're clearly doing this successfully. So what are you going to do if I throw in some diversity? If I ask you to suddenly notice the differences? And Saturn in Aquarius is moving with that, is drilling down into how do we innovate with creating new structures for ourselves around honoring our differences. So that's August. I have heard, is the energy going to get less intense? Nope, it's not. It's vibrate until you shake off the old stuff. So you're moving at a higher frequency. So I'm going to hold all questions until the end. So if you have questions, write them down, stick them in your little head. And we're going to move on right to our volunteer, Jenny. Thank you for volunteering today. You want to come off of mute. And what kind of question, what is your question today as we look at your chart?
With all of this innovation and restructuring, kind of what do I need to be, to do, to trust myself more?
So you are in a very interesting time because all of this big transformational collective North Node piece is happening in your first house. You're actually being asked to rebel against any structural idea you had of this is who Jenny is, to move toward something different. Now, our friend Saturn right now is opposite your natal Kali. And he's going to get closer and closer and closer to your natal Kali. So transiting Saturn, when I read charts this way, when I say your natal Kali, this is your birth placement. This is where Kali was at the moment of your birth versus transiting Saturn, who we can often look at as the collective energy. How is the collective energy going to push against your desire to break down ego? And this is happening in your 10th and 4th houses. So your 4th house, where your Kali resides, is the house of home, where you feel safe and secure. It's that emotional home. And Kali is bringing her sword to that place. And so what do you need to cut away for the innovations to start to land. And, you know, Saturn's in your 12th house, which holds your midheaven and your Vesta. I'm just looking through some old charts here. And also your networker lives there. How can you innovatively bring in that energy? How can you allow Saturn to innovate and rebuild how you network? Because since I got all your stuff, I'm going to really go into this.
Let's go.
Your midheaven is also here. There's this point of leadership. This is the midheaven, which is the MC on charts, is the point where the sun was. It's the furthest, highest point of the sun the day that you were born. And this is how you shine your leadership into the world. The midheaven is a leadership point. And with your midheaven being in Aquarius, there is a thread of your leadership is via innovation. And also the avoidance of the shadow of Aquarius, which is hive mind. We all need to be the same. Right? We all need to be the same. We all need to think the same. We all need to do the same. We all need to, that really messy hive mind piece is the shadow of Aquarius. And as we shift ages, we're 60 years in to the 200-year process of the changing of the ages. And we are going to be continually tempted with the hive mind, because the shadow of an age change always shows up as well as the light. So the more we can avoid going into hive mind, the more we can avoid the elimination of all of our pieces. Hold on to those pieces. Those pieces are part of what make you you, and what don't allow you to fall into a hive mind place of, well, we all are the same, so we all have to think the same, and we all have to do the same, and we all have to agree. It's not that. It's how do we live here in harmony as a unit and recognize our sameness while holding our differences. Because if we eliminate the differences, we've fallen into the shadow of Aquarius. Does that give you something to roll with?
Oh yeah, it lands very much so.
You have anything else for me?
Not that I could think of in this moment. I think it's leaning into some of those questions that came up.
Okay. All right. And keeping in mind that as Saturn continues his retrograde through your Aquarius, he's also going to be squaring Algo, your rising, and your retrograde natal Chiron. So there's going to be a Saturnist structure. Squares are conflict. There's going to maybe be some conflict. Algo is one of the fixed stars. It looks like the head of Medusa. So where are you seeing sister wound coming up? Where are you seeing sexual wounding coming up? Where are you seeing betrayal? Where are you seeing those things? And your Algo is at 26 degrees conjunct your rising. Algo's at 25, your rising's at 26, your Chiron's at 26. So Algo is coming in there, but keep in mind that Medusa in her highest is about connection and the full expression of our sexuality and the healing of that sister wound by gathering with women that are trusted and held and want all of the parts of us. Because the sister wound that Medusa is a part of the story of originating is this idea that we can't be sexual creatures and be in community with other women, because it's a part of the toxic patriarchy that we need to compete for resources, including men as resources. So really bringing all of you to community is vitally important, because that's how you're going to rise. The AC is the place on the horizon that I like to think of as the point of light and dark meeting. It's in the body. When I feel these things in the body, it's our spinal cord. It's the light of our spinal cord meeting the dark of the tissue around it and the dark of the bone. It is what holds us up and what allows us to face things. And Chiron is that wounded healer who beautifully can go totally maverick. I love me some mavericks. And can really wrap around to the wound and be so protective of the wound that there's an inability to find that the medicine actually lays in the wound, that going into the hurt of being scared, of being shamed, of being guilty, of being all of the things we work so hard to avoid, it's actually flushing those things out to find the medicine. Any questions from any of that?
Nope. Lands again. Once again, especially with the AC piece.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. And, keeping in mind that as Mars moves through Taurus, he's already, as of this weekend, as of Thursday, he's at 20 degrees. So throughout the weekend here, I know what you're walking into this weekend, he is going to be moving over your sister wound. He is going to be moving over how you rise and shine. He's going to be moving over your core wound to really elevate this and to bring it to the surface so you can make a conscious decision over what you're going to do with it. No, we can never make it up. So I have time if you have more questions, Jenny. Otherwise, we'll just open it up to see what anybody else has.
Yeah, there's still so much information here that I'm digesting. So I feel like I have these ideas already of what I need to cut away, and there's lots of fear showing up around it all, and guilt and all of the things. So getting into it and having that sister community to hold me is going to be beautiful.
I see you, woman. Thank you for volunteering your chart today. I appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you.
Let's go ahead and open for questions. I know that was a lot, fast and furious, because I dive into all of these things on the Archetypal Astrology group. Deep dive. I'm always
Amy,
surprised.
I'm sorry. I have a quick question. You brought up Algo. I'm not sure I've heard that before. So
Algo is one of the fixed stars.
Okay.
And it is it's considered a fixed star, but it's shaped like Medusa's head. So it's almost another Medusa point.
Okay. And the
Unlike
energy
Medusa,
around Algo?
separate from the Medusa asteroid.
Oh,
There's an
okay.
asteroid in the main belt that is Medusa. Algo is separate.
And the energy Algo brings?
Algo brings sister wound, betrayal, sexual energy, either distortion or in the light. So
Okay.
Algo is a feminine energy.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
I have a reflection and a question. So I just want to put it out there, Jenny, if you are feeling like you need a space to lean in this weekend or anytime, like I find for myself, I'm like a kind of like a type it out type of processor. So if you feel the need to lean in anywhere, like I know Amie's archetypal astrology group is a super, super safe space to lean in. I'm not sure how you're resourced, in your life, but the community is a really wonderful place to do that. And I'm feeling, with the transition that I'm in, I'm like, oh, like I can utilize this tool that I've built differently than I have been using it. And I can lean in more, and I can be like, I feel like I'm more able to fully be in the work with everybody, and would love to hold space for you. I know what it's like to, to kind of have that sister wound, like kind of broken wide open, and like kind of like dee, 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 and you're like, oh my gosh, ow. So if you need a reminder that there are safe women and people that love you, we are here. So I just wanted to put that out there. And my question, so okay, so I have written down Saturn is a cold push away. And then if you've built a constrictive structure, and I didn't fill it out the rest of the way. So I have been feeling in my relationship, particularly like that like I've been feeling like cold push away, like keep at a distance. Like, I don't know if this is where I belong. I don't know what's being asked of me here. Like it's just, there's so many things where I'm like, holy smokes, like what else am I being asked to let go of? Or, I keep like asking, like, is this faith or is this fear? Is this faith or is this fear? Like, am I supposed to go deeper, or am I supposed to, go? So that's been a whole thing. But I'm curious about like the constrictive structure. What planet is responsible for that? And like, is there more, I suppose, is the question that I would like to ask.
Absolutely. Great question. So Saturn has rings, right?
Mm-hmm.
Saturn travels with his own boundaries is another way to look at that. Is Saturn is walking around with his boundaries out there for everyone to see. And sometimes we forget that as we navigate this, boundaries have for a long time been about keeping other out rather than holding ourselves in. And the beauty of Saturn, or say Charlotte, who is an asteroid who travels with her own boundaries, is that when we approach boundaries from holding ourselves in, from getting really clear about what I want or what I need, say in relationship, I need a deep dive in relationship. I need an emotional connected deep dive. I need to be able to have deep conversations. I need for the person I'm with to not have a meltdown or to skate out when we're in something scary. I need for a direct, hey, what's going on? And you know what? You're right, there is something going on. So knowing what we need, right? So we can state it and hold ourselves and see if we're then met, right? And taking the steps of also being really, really clear. So Saturn in his shadow is that push away, that cold, like I need to keep my distance. Saturn though is also like the warm side of him is Gandalf. And he's not going to give you answers, but he's going to ask questions that push you to find your answer. He's going to sit in the caves of Mordor and sniff the air until he can really discern which tunnel has, a clearer thread of air. And in the meantime, he's going to speak in a lot of riddles, because Saturn in its shadow is the guarded heart, is the energy that doesn't let anything in. Whereas Charlotte, who is another She's an asteroid. She's a bigger asteroid. And like I said, she travels with rings. In her myth, she's a shapeshifter. She started out as essentially a mermaid, and she fell in love with Chiron. And she got to make the choice of, do I stay in this form and have this longing, or do I shift and do I stretch and become something new? And it wasn't about being with him. It was about, what does she want? And he was willing to meet that. So there needs to, for sacred union to happen, there needs to be a meeting. There needs to be a level of being able to be influenced, right? And while Charlotte is almost never mentioned in Chiron's myth, she is the healer that worked with him to heal that wound. And they are one of the couples that we speak about in like deep, deep sacred union, but they can manage that because she has boundaries and she doesn't allow that, that messy side of Chiron, the meltdown, I need you to pee for me aspect of toxicity. Like, I can't get comfortable, so why don't you do something to make me comfortable? She is having none of that. Brother. Like, you go fix this. I will be here in my boundary when you're ready. And I will love you through this, but it is not my job to pee for you. So yes, Saturn can be cold and Saturn can be in a little box, but Saturn will hold whatever structure we build. Saturn isn't the architect. Saturn is the carpenter. So he's not designing anything. He's building what we design. Does that answer the question?
It's certainly helpful. Thank you.
Absolutely. Does anybody else have anything?
I have a theme I'd like to
Oh, I
present.
can't hear you, Joanne.
Oh,
You're not
I don't know
muted.
why.
Oh, there you go. I heard you.
Oh, okay. Maybe one of those interesting little pauses in the ether as things go. I'm just noticing a theme for me that has come up a number of times that I thought I'd share, because I have a feeling that it's probably something that a lot of people do. Because you've been talking about boundaries, and I like the idea of I forgot about keeping my own, because I tend to leak out emotionally over everybody. I take on everybody's feelings, but then I don't. The inability to keep some sort of detachment keeps me from responding with. There's a difference between sympathy and empathy.
Yes.
And for me, empathy is basically too much. I need to step back and say I have sympathy, but not make claims about knowing what's going on with the other person necessarily. And that's me leaking out all over because I want them to all feel good, right? But at the same time, the theme I'm talking about is asking for help, which we talked about in our release and manifestation session the other day. And just for anybody who's looking at making decisions, I'm extremely distractible. I have like 4 businesses going on at once, and I need to do something to focus in. I got things that make money and things that I really want to be that aren't. So, and I'm the sole breadwinner, so I'm trying to figure out how to work that. But it's very hard for me to ask for help. I feel like I have to do everything myself. I'm a baby boomer. I've been working my ass off, okay, for years. And but it's not somebody else's fault. It's me, because if I ask for help, it's there. But I forget to do that. And I've just had several days of sciatica to deal with, and I have had to ask for help because the universe was telling me, we're going to make you ask. And it was a really good reminder. So I'm just saying, if anybody's feeling like they're doing things by themselves, I don't know if my lesson applies, but it can be really hard to ask for help and do it anyway.
Yes.
So,
Excellent. Thank you, Joanne. So we have a couple more minutes left. I want to be very respectful of time. Any last pieces from anybody? I know we were fast and furious through the aspects for the month, and join me in all of you are in archetypal astrology, so just come play. And if there's no
can I ask a question, Amy?
questions, we will. Jenny, yes. You pointed at me, but you're muted.
I pointed at Joanne. Joanne said she had a question.
Oh, I was just going to say, do you have a recommendation? Because I have a book that has all the aspects in it every day. It's a calendar book from a local group here called We Moon. And it's a group of women who have been publishing this for like 35 years or something like that. And I know one of the ladies personally who's associated with that, who lives in my town. But I'm going to take this notes that I've made, because there's always lots of different aspects, especially about the planets that are closer to the sun, because they change a lot. And it's nice to be able to look on a specific day and say, hey, what's happening? And then refer to your notes. So if you don't have one, look around for a planner book or something that's got the information, because it's hard to remember it. Obviously, you've got your stuff written down, Amy, because it's very specific.
I have a big notebook.
Ah, you have a big notebook. Okay.
I have a big notebook because the way that I do things is I literally just am like, okay, Spirit, what do I need to like bring in for my community? And so I touch in on the aspects that are loud for my community's vibration. There's so much that goes on any given day because there's so much stuff always moving. So I am by no stretch of the imagination the end all say all on what's moving in the sky. And yes, Joanne, that's a great idea because it gives you options on what to focus on. Like, what energies do you want to feel? Because they're going to be useful and helpful and supportive in your journey. So yeah, if no one else has anything, let's cut all you beautiful people loose for your days, huh? All right. Well, I know we like to do a group goodbye. So everybody can unmute and we'll do a group goodbye and I'll go about our days.
Bye,
Bye, everybody.
Bye,
Thanks,
everyone.
Amy.
August.
Yes, thank you guys.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.